What is up? What is going on, David SVA Card Collectors? Today, I'll be doing an interview. Oh, an interview, you say, Dave? Yes, I'll be doing an interview. The old sports card investor, the world famous sports card investor. He's been blazing a trail. He started after me, and he's got about 50 times the amount of views. Not bitter at all. No. Had a really good time talking to him. Asked him a bunch of questions. A lot of questions that people had thought in their brains that they wanted to ask. I asked. So, without further ado, here comes the interview. All right, I am here with the sports card investor. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Not a problem. All right. I know a little bit about you because I've been watching you around, but some people who are just listening to you for the first time, just how did you get started and what have you been up to?
Sure, yeah. Well, I got back into the hobby about a year and a half ago and instantly got hooked again, just like I was as a kid. I was, of course, a big collector as a kid, like a lot of people are. But as I got back in the hobby this time, I couldn't help but notice the business and investment potential that the hobby had. The card manufacturers have made so many smart changes to the way that they produce the cards since the time when I was, collecting as a kid. Things like serial numbered cards and autograph cards. Naturally build in different scarcity and all of the different variations. And then grading is obviously a huge thing now as well that helps build in scarcity and ensure the quality of the product. And the liquidity, which didn't exist back then. Obviously sites like eBay where you can flip cards or ComC and it makes it possible for you to do that, or StockX. None of that existed many years ago. So I saw it this time around and I said, man, this is a totally different ballgame. And I got really excited about it. I got really deep into it. And I started putting out investment content because I saw a lack of it in the space.
Now, when you first started getting in, did you go for boxes and start opening up packs and start going nuts? Or were you already in the mind of, all right, let me pick and choose the cards that I want to get?
Well, at first I was trying to just get a sense of what it was all about. And of course, getting back into the hobby now versus when you were a kid, there's so many more different types of sets and different types of refractors, and it's almost overwhelming. And so I think honestly one of the best ways to learn it is to start to buy some product and start to buy some wax and rip it open. Also, watching online card breaks is a great way to really learn about the different products because you see those card breakers open up so many different boxes and types of product in such a short period of time. But yeah, so I did some box, opening at first, but as I got more into the investment side, I quickly figured out that if you're approaching it from an investment standpoint, opening boxes is not a good strategy. That's opening boxes is fun, but it's gambling, and it's much like going to Vegas and putting money in a slot machine. It's a gamble that most of the time is not going to pay off, and occasionally you'll hit a big jackpot pull. But overall, it's generally not a great idea. You're better off buying individual player cards, and you're better off buying them ideally graded and holding on to them from an investment standpoint. Or if you're going to buy boxes, keeping them sealed. That's become popular now, certainly buying sealed wax and keeping it sealed and then reselling it as sealed. So that's where I spend most of my efforts today, particularly on the player side.
Now, that's one of the questions I was going to ask. I know you focus more on graded cards. Have you been stocking any hobby retail blasters, sealed, boxes and putting them under your bed? Because I know I tried it and then they look at me, they stare at me, and it's
you open them.
It's done. They're done. Then I start opening them up and then I go, God damn, why did I? Every single time I go, why? I knew this was going to happen. So do you have like a vault or a place to hide them? Better than me.
Yeah, I do. I do have several unopened seal cases in my closet, and they're just going to stay there in my basement for some period of time. But it's hard right now. It's hard to get basketball at a good enough price point where, in my opinion, holding makes a lot of sense. Like, if you can get it, if you got in early and you were able to get, certainly Prism retail, if you were, able to pay retail prices, or if you were friends with a hobby shop owner and you were actually be able to get Prism at hobby shop prices, at actual suggested retail prices without the markup, sure, then you're going to do well by reselling it. But the challenge is that now a lot of the new products are hitting the market and they're already marked up. Particularly in hobby shops and online retailers, they're already marked up far beyond the manufacturer suggested retail price. So the price that you're buying sealed wax at today often kind of already reflects the market value of where guys like Zion and Ja are today. And so the challenge is you really got to see those guys go up further for that wax to continue to go up further. And I at this moment in time, I am not optimistic about that. I think that Ja and Zion are overpriced. And I do think their prices are going to soften. I think we're going to see them as we get towards the playoffs. I think we're going to see prices begin to fall because neither of them are going to make much of a playoff run this year, most likely. And so I think that we're going to see prices fall and then probably over the offseason remain kind of soft. So I'm not a huge fan of buying sealed wax, but it is a strategy that can be a good one at times.
Yeah, I tend to agree, especially this year. I agree. If you're able to go to your Target or Walmart and you're able to pick up an optic or Prism for $20, that's the way to go. But even my candy shop, I mean, that guy, he's marking it up. I can't get a card. I'm buying candy and a $40 blaster.
Yeah,
because he knows, because he checks eBay and he goes, dude, I can sell it on eBay all day long. So
yeah,
it's tough.
So that's the problem. If you're going to buy it at that price, then you're getting a markup on top of that. It's going to become a lot more difficult.
Definitely. All right. I wanted to ask you. I hear what type of. I'm going to get a little personal. What type of businesses are you, like general industries and things like that, are you in?
Yeah, so I'm a tech entrepreneur and investor. So I've started a number of tech companies. The company that I kind of run day to day is a company called 352. We are a innovation and growth firm. We do a lot of digital work for large companies, from innovation consulting to website and software development to growth marketing. And then I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm a mentor at Atlanta Tech Village, and I've been involved in some of the other programs like Techstars in the past. And so I invest in some of the startup companies that are in those types of places.
So I can see where your mind went when you saw baseball cards.
Exactly.
You have the same dealers who are breathing heavy and who can hardly fit on one chair. Yeah. And now you're coming in with these gadgets. That's basically what they would call them. Spitting out data and things like that not everyone has been working with. I know you have a new tool that you have developed. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my YouTube channel about 7 months ago and started putting out a video a week about sports card investing. And I wanted to take a data-driven approach. I wanted to take an approach where I talked about the numbers, where I talked about what cards were actually doing in terms of dollars and cents, the ones that were going up, ones that were going down, talk about population reports, and talk about statistics of players and how they, looking at certain statistics might be an early indicator of card prices. I did some comparison of like fantasy football rankings and projections to card prices. So I've done a lot of different episodes where I've tried to kind of mash together different data sources to predict what cards could do. And then I would pick cards and say, hey, here's a card I think you should buy, and here's why. And my picks have done very well. Thankfully, I went back and looked at all of my basketball picks from last summer before the season started. And as of February, as of now, they're up well over 70%. They're up almost 80%. So I've had some success certainly doing picks like that. And as the show went on and the YouTube show Sports Card Investor got more popular, I decided, you know what, I need more data. I want more. I want there to be better tools that can give sports card investors such as myself a better look at the market, a better look at the up and down movements of cards, and everything out there was, in my opinion, fairly rudimentary. And there was opportunity to develop a really cool tool that would be a price guide, a an intelligent system, a way to really give you a full understanding of the market like nothing else that had existed. And so I built it, and it's called Market Movers. And I just released it to the public last week. I've been using it for the last month, pulling data from it for my shows on YouTube. So people who are watching me on YouTube are seeing, little clips of Market Movers, and a lot of the data that I'm talking about is coming from my Market Movers tool. So that launched a week ago. I've got 250 users as of today, which I'm really excited about. That's a great uptake for the first week, and excited to see where it goes.
That sounds. I was using the biggest thing I was using was PWCC and their market research tool. Well, not anymore, but I was previously, and that was giving me some data, and I was able to use some of PSA, pop reports, also those auction results as well. Are you pulling everything just from eBay, or are you pulling it from other data, sources?
Yeah, everything's coming from eBay currently. Mm-hmm. And we're doing a lot of, analysis of that data. Yeah, PWCC, that is also the tool that I used to use to look up card prices. But honestly, it's a very basic tool. It's type in a query, get results. Mm-hmm. There's no charting, there's no graphing. And the worst part about it, the most challenging part about it, is that you could type in a query and then you're going to get cards back which don't match the card you're trying to find, and so you can't use it to create any type of graph or like consistent understanding of the market if every time you do a search you're getting results back that don't really match the search. And that's just the very nature of eBay. The challenge is that eBay is an unstructured data source. Essentially, it's basically like a classified listing service, so people can put whatever they want in the title. So someone may be selling a raw card, and then they're going to put PSA 10 or PSA 10 question mark in the title, or they're going to not PSA 10. Someone's going to sell a Prism base card, and in the title they're going to put silver just to get you to look at it, or they're going to put base silver, or they're going to put not silver or non-silver. And the problem is, if you're now going on a PWCC and you're searching for Prism silver PSA 10, you're getting a flood of results that are not silver and that are not PSA 10 because of how people have set up their titles. So I built the first tool in the history of the hobby that is intelligent enough to screen all of those listings out. It uses artificial intelligence to be able to detect what listings are real and which ones are not. And the ones that don't actually match what you're looking for, it gets rid of them. So every time you come into my tool and you call up a chart, the data is clean and it's pure, and you're looking at what you think you're looking at.
That is exactly one of the biggest things, because I used to do it, and I know you spoke about this. I used to do it by hand, and I would put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and I would look and I would go, "Oh, this guy put it's non." So so I get where you're coming from on that. And the worst part is when people do that on eBay, they don't realize that if someone is searching for a silver and they see that card and it says not silver or whatever the case, it's not what they're looking for. It's going to rank them lower on eBay. So they're actually hurting themselves trying to trick eBay.
Yeah.
But I like, all that sounds really, really good. Can you store the cards that you have or save cards that you have on your market research thing, or no?
Not right now, but that's a tool that we definitely want to build into it in the future. I had my first live stream with folks who had signed up for the tool a few days ago, and I asked them for ideas, and I said, "Hey, what do you want us to build next into this?" Because one of the things that I really want Market Movers to be is a platform that continues to grow and evolve to best meet the needs of sports card investors. And one of the things that several people suggested was it'd be cool if I could put my collection in there, and then it could help get me kind of a real-time price value of the cards in my collection. So it's on our roadmap. It's something that we'll definitely tackle in the upcoming few months.
Now I know, and I have to say this because a couple of people have talked about it. Some of the pricing that you have for this tool seems one part was a little high, and people ask me like, why would it be so much money? I go, well, I'm sure you spent a lot of time and money on creating this, correct?
I did, and I saw all those comments. Yeah, I saw those comments, and I appreciate. I understand that
Yes.
that some people are definitely upset and have strong opinions about the pricing. So look, here's the angle I'm going at with this. First of all, obviously, I did put a ton of money into it. There's a lot of investment in it, but second of all, it's my mission to make the product be able to return a positive return on investment for everybody who subscribes to it. The next feature that I'm building in is a feature that's going to scour the current listings on eBay and compare the current listings to the current pricing of those items based on recent sales, and then identify listings that are potentially undervalued. If you've got to buy it now that's been sitting on eBay, at $199 for the last of Michael Porter Jr. for the last couple of months, and then the person with the listing didn't notice that Michael Porter Jr.'s cards have been on a tear, and maybe his Prism Silver PSA 10s have now broken 200 and are going up from there, and this card's still sitting there for 199. Well, wouldn't you like to know that? But right now it's just buried somewhere in the eBay search results. But what if I could actually expose that listing to you, because I know that you are buying Michael Porter Jr. cards? What if I could actually email you and say, hey, alert, I just found a Michael Porter Jr. on eBay that's undervalued. I know you're buying Michael Porter Jr. cards. Here's one to get. That's the type of stuff that I'm going to continue to build into my software. And so I had to charge a bit of a premium because the money needs to be there to continue to fuel the growth of the product. And ultimately, if I can be successful at building tools like that it's going to provide everybody with a positive ROI and experience.
It sounds fair. I know the hobby, and I know they're cheap when it comes to everything outside of cards. They're cheap, but with what you're giving and what you're trying to add, I can see if someone is spending, maybe if you're not spending $100, but if you're spending thousands of dollars, I can see how you can benefit from this tool. And I feel that you're using, it sounds like a lot of the things from Amazon. There's a lot of Amazon sellers and flippers and things like that, and they have the same type of tools that you're talking about, but it's like for reselling products where it scours Amazon or scours different websites to try to find a cheaper product. And it's somewhat what you're bringing over to the baseball card world. I don't know if you know or not. I have no idea, but it sounds really interesting. I like it. I like data. I like using that. I was always trying to, like I said, I would use the PWCC, I would use the POP reports, and I would try to figure out, what was the defining, data point that was bringing this card price up or down. And you can sort of figure it out, but not really. You can never pinpoint it. So the more data points, the better.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit now, and I'm going to just talk about the hobby in general and go a little bit, people like controversies and things like that. They get all excited, it moves down there a little bit when they hear this stuff. But, PSA, you've been following, I'm assuming, the PSA, PWCC trimming scandals and things like that.
Sure. I've seen, forum posts about it and all that type of thing.
Do you have any concerns with regards to PSA?
Here's my thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not making any difference. Like the PSA's grading more cards than they've ever graded before. PSA cards are selling for more money than they've ever sold for before. People are buying graded cards at a higher volume than they've ever bought them before. It hasn't slowed the business down, nor has it for Beckett and BGS. And so, I obviously I don't know what happened. Obviously, there's some people on the forums who have very clearly exposed that PSA, graded cards that should not have been graded, that were obviously altered through whether it be trimming or the patches being replaced, etc. So I mean, there's no question that PSA screwed up, and there's no question that BGS screwed up by letting those cards through. In terms of the connection with PWCC and some of the more nefarious stuff, some of the rumors about people getting more black labels from BGS or whatever that may be. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Like people are alleging that. Some people have some evidence on that may be the case. I don't know. It sounds really bad. It doesn't look good. It's something that absolutely they need to clean up if any of that crap is going on. But again, graded cards are everything, and it's not slowing it down. So honestly, my opinion on it is it doesn't really matter from an investment standpoint unless something actually gets to the point where like something actually happens to one of those companies, or the market starts to respond in a very negative way, which right now the market has not responded in a negative way. So take that for what it's worth. That's just, I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying it's okay. It's just, I'm just being very factual, looking at the market and saying the market isn't really responding to this.
You sound exactly like me, because it's exactly what I'm a little more flamboyant. I shouldn't say that. I'm not flamboyant. I'm a little more outspoken. I think there is a little bit more nefarious things to it, but nobody cares. I mean, I think it actually drew more attention to PSA, and it was like the old adage, well, I don't even know how to say bad publicity is still good publicity, because they are doing crazy good PSA. And,
yeah.
I basically said nobody cares. People care. They want to complain about it. Those blowout forms, I actually read some of them. Those guys did amazing work.
They did.
They were
able
to find the raw card. How do you find a raw card that they graded, and then they saw that how they cut it up? And I mean, it was just, they should be looking for Hillary's emails. These guys are amazing. So I have more faith in them than anything. But you're right, it hasn't affected it at all. And so I never really heard you ever talk about it too much. That's why.
Yeah, I haven't talked about it a lot. Just, and it's not that I am afraid to talk about it or want to stay away from it. It's just, again, I just haven't seen it had much impact. So if it starts having an impact, in terms of the prices, I'll talk about it all the time. But it just hasn't. So, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think in the vintage world, it's something to be reckoned with, because it just seems like there's a ton of cards. And I do know that the newer cards and also switching of the jerseys and things like that, that's been happening. But it seems like the vintage cards, there's just so many that have been trimmed or doctored. And I'm just surprised that PSA or BGS hasn't been able to figure it out, or I don't know. It seems to me that they really don't. They're just, we'll try harder next time, to me. But I would be too if no one's doing anything about it. If my sales were doubling because of it, I wouldn't really care either. So I can't blame you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's basically.
But I mean, I hope they do. Regardless of what's happening with the card prices, I hope they clean this stuff up, because the hobby needs grading. Sports card investing depends on grading. So I really hope they clean it up. I hope PSA tightens up their practices. I hope BGS tightens up their practices. And I hope they get better measures in place to protect against this type of stuff from happening in the future.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, and they used to have graded cards, and I would look, who's going to pay triple the amount for a stupid graded card? What a bunch of idiots. I remember as a kid walking around and going, why do you get a grade? It's so stupid. I can get it for like $5. You don't know what you're doing. It's completely changed. How 25, 30 years, how things have changed.
Well, especially with, now with, being able to buy and sell so much online, graded cards is just a consistency of quality when you're making a purchase online that you otherwise would never be able to get. I mean, no matter how good somebody's scan is of a raw card, you can't tell if there's a little surface scratch or some sort of little imperfection that the scanner is just missing, which happens all the time. And so, but the graded at least provides that sense of quality.
Yeah, no, I understand why they do it now. I mean, we need it. You definitely need it now. There's too many people out there, and I'm sure PSA is catching, a large majority of cards that have been messed with and things like that. It's just how much the hobby has changed from you know from graded to being so important to back in the day, no one even caring. Just looking at
Yep.
it and saying it's just stupid. You're wasting your time. So it's
Yep.
just funny. That's gonna change gears a little bit because that's what I do. A lot of the cards that you talk about, and I know you had one episode that was about this, but you're starting off. You're getting in. You like basketball. You got 50, $100. What am I doing with this? What should I do?
I would not buy Zion. Not right now, not at his current prices. I mean, I know the guy's awesome, but I just, as I said, I think we're at a peak. I think that's, I think you're better off putting your money in the stars of some of the previous years. I mean, whether you want to look at Luka or Trey. I mean, I think in terms of a long-term investment, I think Trey Young is undervalued compared to where his cards could go. So that's somewhere that I would look. It depends, what you're going for. If there's obviously different categories of card investing. Do you want to do more of kind of the short-term speculatory? In which case, honestly, I think there's a lot of good investment potential in all of the rookies in this year's class, not named Zion and Ja. They've been totally overshadowed by Zion and Ja, and all of their card prices are weak in comparison to Zion and Ja. And we are certain to have a few of those guys break out next year and become quite valuable. The same way that this year we saw it with like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Michael Porter Jr., who have kind of come on the scene and have seen their prices go up considerably over the course of this season. Next year, that's going to happen with some of the guys as well, whether it's Tyler Hero or whoever it's going to be. I would look to some of the secondary rookies in this year's class if you want to do that, if you want to play that way. If you want to go for more of a longer term bet, as I said, I like a guy like Trey Young. Or you can go the route of trying to own some cards of an all-time great, and looking for cards from a Giannis or cards from a LeBron or somebody like that. And granted, you're not going to get their premier rookie cards for $50 to $100, but there are some cards you can buy. I mean, over the summer, I bought a bunch of Giannis hoops, NBA hoops rookie cards at the National, and I forget exactly how much they were, but they were all less than $100 each, and they're probably they're probably over $100 now. So I imagine they're certainly over $100 now with how his season has gone and how his card prices have driven up. But you may be able to find second year cards of him or some other variants of his cards that still fall within that range. So it just depends on your strategy, but I think there's a lot of different ways you could invest $50 to $100 and probably do quite well.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem when you starting out is the shiny new coin. And every single week or 2 weeks, there's a new product or something that's coming out, and you go, "Oh, I gotta get it. Oh, I gotta buy this. I want to buy that," and you don't have the money. It would be impossible to if you're starting off and you have, I don't think I think that's a normal $50 to $100, $100 to $150 to start off with. Which cards are you sticking with? Prism? Are you going with Optic? I don't think NT you ain't touching. Are there some other cards that you're looking at brands from Panini?
Yeah, so I always recommend to people that they invest in the most common popular brands because those are the ones that are most likely to retain their value over time and are going to be easiest to sell. The kind of the, and so first of all, Prism, obviously, super well known. Optic falls into that category. So if we're specifically talking basketball, I would say Prism, Optic, Contenders, and then on the higher end, I would say Immaculate. I would say obviously National Treasures, but obviously that's quite expensive. And Select would be the other one that I would put into kind of the more mid tier there. And I would concentrate on those sets. I think that If you go kind of for an offshoot set like Chronicles or Encased or some of these other sets that get made every year, um, those sets may not be made in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So when you go to sell your, 2019 Chronicles Zion Williamson in 2029, Panini may have dropped Chronicles as a card line, and so then it's gonna not maybe quite garner the same level of interest as if you own the Prism, and Prism as a brand is still going really strong in 2029. I mean, it's the same reason if you look back to like 2013, 2014, 2012, Prism from those years is very much sought after because people collect Prism today, so they know the brand name, and so then they go back and so like Giannis's Prism rookie, for example, has really elevated. And I think it's partially as a result of just that association with the cards that people collect today.
Yeah, that's what I started to do. I started to go back. I was looking at 2012, looking for Prism base because I couldn't get no silver. The silvers are just too expensive. So I was able to pick up Damian Lillard before he bounced, but I wish I would have bought a lot more of them. And I think that's where people need to. I always say on my podcast, like, go the opposite direction. If everyone's going for Zion and Ja, look for someone else. I'm sure there's somebody that is being undervalued right now that you'll be able to pick up on a good price, maybe a different year. Right now everyone should be buying football cards. To be honest with you, football cards, I have a love-hate relationship. I used to collect football cards, but for me now, it just seems like it's just about the quarterback. And I hate the fact that it's just basically one position that you can invest in. Unless you think something different. Do you think there's other, wide receiver or something that you can invest in?
No, not really. No. I mean, I know people got excited this year about, like AJ Brown of the Titans and DK Metcalf, but I wouldn't. I would stay away from those guys. I mean, even they'd have to really become an all-time great wide receiver to really hold the value long term. I mean, even guys, like AJ Green or someone like that who's been a great receiver, like their values aren't that impressive. So it's really just the quarterbacks in football. So I agree. It's hard. Football investing is difficult from that standpoint because there's just a lot less opportunity. I mean, you're pretty much chasing a handful of quarterbacks, and that's basically what you're going to be, what you want. I will say I had quite a bit of success this last year on one of my shows. The first week of the football season, I said, hey guys, I think your best investment right now. I did a show called like 10 cards under $10, and I picked 10 backup quarterbacks. And the first guy I picked in the show was Mason Rudolph, and the second guy I picked was Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah. And I said, hey, because their cards were going for like 0. And I said, hey guys, Mason Rudolph is backing up Big Ben. Big Ben's older. I don't know how many years he's got left. He's prone to injury. Mason Rudolph may end up starting this year. Teddy Bridgewater is backing up Drew Brees. Drew Brees has not been as injury prone, but he is older. He's turning 40. So I said, I think it is reasonable to pick up Teddy Bridgewater. And so I went on down the list. And sure enough, I also said, pick up Kyle Allen of the Panthers. Because I said, it's possible Cam Newton could go down. So it's just like it was just kind of one guy after another, and they all were fabulous investments for under $10 because all of those guys saw their cards go up significantly once they got the starting jobs. Now you needed to sell out of them because Teddy Bridgewater did wonderfully, but obviously Mason Rudolph had some struggles and Kyle Allen had some struggles, and so there would have been good cards to flip over the course of the season. But yeah, I think that's maybe where your kind of more creative opportunity in football is from an investment standpoint.
So you're cheering for injuries. So as soon as you hear someone like hear a crack, you just, yes, I told you, I knew it. Yes.
Sadly, yes.
It's the sweet sound of money. That's real nice. No, I saw that episode, and it was you had good timing. That was good timing on that show. because I think it was both, right? Mason and Bridgewater, same exact week.
Yeah, and I literally put the show out the week prior to that happening. So, well, obviously I got lucky. I mean, I didn't have a premonition that they were going to get injured that week. But I think the general premise was good, right?
Premonitions.
Yeah.
With the sports card investor. All right. Now, you don't talk that much about baseball investing. I don't know if that's because you're just not into it as much as basketball. I know football you like as well. Are you into it? Do you like baseball cards? Is the stuff that are you buying baseball cards?
I am. I like baseball cards. I think baseball cards make good investment. I do think that there are a lot of people who are into baseball card investing, and there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of good young, players right now. I honestly, I focused more on basketball because that's where, first of all, there is the most hunger for basketball right now. I do think basketball cards are the best long-term investment. And honestly, it was what I knew the best coming into the hobby. I knew basketball. I knew basketball and football really well, and I didn't know baseball as well. I just wasn't as big of a fan of the sport. And so as such, I wasn't up to speed on all of the hot young prospects. But that said, I've gotten quite into it, and I've gotten excited about some of the guys this year. And I'm in fact about to drop an episode tomorrow, which probably by the time you post this will have already been, put out, where I'm going to say that I think Yordan Alvarez is a really good investment right now. His prices have actually come down in the last few weeks, and he is a guy who obviously had a tremendous end to the year last year when he was called up to the majors for the Astros, and ended up, of course, winning Rookie of the Year. And yet his card prices, they're not where they should be, in my opinion. There's been, so much attention paid to guys like Acuna and obviously Trout. Everyone still chases Trout, after all these years. But, a guy like him, he can be a good investment.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you, respectfully disagree with you, because I think baseball, it seems like there's a lot more players that you can invest in. There's a bigger pool. And I think that's basically driven by Bowman prospects and people going prospecting. And you'll pay crazy amounts of money for, and maybe it's overvalued, and maybe it's more of a gamble, because most of these guys aren't even in the majors, and their cards will be worth thousands of dollars. So, they're basically pulling data from minor leagues and trying to be, want to be GMs and trying to extrapolate. Well, basically, I think these guys are going to be major league, greats. They're going to be as good as Mike Trout. So I might as well spend as much as, they're going to be. Like there's the Luis Roberts, who is a prospect for the White Sox. I think his 1-of-1 went for $50,000. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he might make it, but he might just be a 25, 30 home run outfielder, and he's just regular Mr. Roberts, and nobody really cares about him. And it wouldn't be bad. He'd be a good player, but it's gambling. So but I also do think there's just a bigger pool of people that, that are playing baseball, and so you'll be able to invest in. That's just where I go with that.
Yes, prospecting in baseball is definitely, it's the wild, wild west a little bit for sure. I mean, you've really, you definitely are rolling the dice. You're definitely taking a chance. But it's fun. I can see why people do it. I can see why people like it. Certainly.
And it's baseball has a ton of sets just like basketball. Panini is really. What do you think about Panini? Well, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, because what do you think about the Dutch auction, or as I like to call it, Dutch oven auction? Do you think that works out well? Do you like it? Yes or no?
I think it's smart of Panini to go direct to consumer for their first off the line product. I think it is a better format generally than how they used to just put all the product up at one moment, and then their website would, horrendously crash and no one could get it and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's very collector friendly from the standpoint of how they do the Dutch auction. I mean, I hate that a whole bunch of people overpay. I hate that a lot of people walk away from that. I mean, what they're basically doing is the way they've got it set up is probably about 90% of the people in the Dutch auction are going to walk away feeling like they got screwed because it's going to end up selling for less than what they bought their stuff for. And that's really no way to treat your customers, to have a business where a large majority of your customers walk away from a transaction with your business feeling like they got screwed because somebody got a discount, that someone got it for less. Someone got it for less than what they got it for. Um, and so that, I mean, that part of it I think is unfortunate. The way that StockX and Topps did the Topps Bowman Chrome X Dutch auction was a lot different in that you could put in whatever bid you wanted, but then they took whatever the lowest winning bid was, and then everybody just had to pay that price, the price of the lowest winning bid. So nobody felt screwed. In fact, 99% of the people felt like they got a bargain because they would have been willing to pay for more than what it sold for, and they only had to pay a lower amount, because they would have put in their bid for a higher amount, but then only had to pay what the lowest winning bid was. So I think that's a lot more collector-friendly way of doing it. I'm sure Panini likes, the money of the way that they're doing it. So I guess they're going to continue to do it that way.
Yeah, they want to make some bank.
Yeah,
that's the two things that bother me is that, and they don't put the odds on their cards. I think that is just it's I don't know why they don't do it. I think maybe they're trying to be, I don't know. I don't even know why. I don't think it's to screw the collectors. I think that would be silly. I think it's more transparency is better. I mean, Topps, hey, it's 1 out of 100 packs. You're going to get this, you're going to get that. But with Panini, it just seems like they're being a little shady at times, which even like today, they changed the price on Panini Select. The football cards. It went from 150 to 225, and they added 5 packs of stickers. Like stuff like that just bothers me. It could be so much better. Their cards look amazing. They look really nice, and I don't know. That's just me though.
Yeah, I do feel like Panini does a good job with the design of their cards. I agree on some of the business practices. Not the biggest fan of some of that stuff. I wish they would be a little bit more, collector friendly when it comes to some of those business practices.
Yeah, you're very more professional than me. They stink. No, they don't think it's just annoying. That's really what it is. And I lost my train of thought. I had an awesome question and I completely forgot. Oh, blockchain. What do you think about blockchain cards from Panini?
So I think the idea of having digital cards is compelling because I think, with a lot of the new folks coming into the market that are in it for more the flipping, it will be interesting to see if we ever get to a point in time when people are flipping digital, like if the physical version of the card doesn't matter, because obviously the physical version of the card slows down your ability to sell it. It slows down the transactional ability to move the card around because you got shipping, and then the condition of it can affect the price and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if it was a digital asset, then it could be moved back and forth in real time. It could be the condition is always the same. So, I mean, there's obviously some attractiveness to that, but so I kind of think maybe that's where Panini was going with this a little bit. But the thing they did was they also then associated a physical card with the blockchain entry, which was kind of strange. And they did it because I think they were worried that not enough people would buy just a digital blockchain version, which could be true. I don't know that everyone's ready for that yet. And so as a result of that, and I don't think it's going to really have that same type of effect. It's certainly not going to have like a real-time marketplace flipping type effect, and also because these are all one of ones and they're all very expensive. What would have been interesting to me is if they had done like a Luka Doncic blockchain where they were going to release 10,000 at $1 each, and people could buy them, and then there was a real-time trading platform where you could go buy them and then instantly put them up for resale and trade, and see if they could get a
stock market.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be interesting to see if they were able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, because people like to see the cards, feel the cards, smell the cards. I have a little green room where I keep all my cards, and I play with them. I say, leave me alone. Let me just play with my cards. I go down there, and that's that. And if it was all digital, I don't know. I don't know if, I think the flipping aspect I agree with. I think it's better because like ComC has something like that where you can buy a card and then just flip it and just sell it right then and there. And you never have the physical card. You don't need to get the physical card and then resend it in. So I do like that aspect, but I do like the fact that if I want to have that physical card, I can get it. And maybe that's just me, and that's just something that, eventually will be broken, just like, ordering stuff online, where everyone said, no way, no one's going to order stuff online. Everyone's going to go to retail store always. And, it just changes. All right. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts is the hobby is hot. The hobby is remains hot. And, people ask, do I think there's going to be, a pullback? Is this a bubble? Is this a junk wax era? That type of thing. And my answer is not right now, because there's first of all, it's not a junk wax era because the production numbers, while they're certainly up, and while there's absolutely more cards being printed this year than last year and the year before and the year before that, there are still way less cards than were printed back in the late 80s and early 90s. So we're not in a true junk wax era by any means. I mean, if we were, it would be easy to walk into any store and find Prism on the shelf. But it is impossible to find Prism on the shelf. So therefore, it tells you right there that demand is far exceeding supply for all of the major releases this year. So I'm not concerned about that. What I am concerned about is with all these folks flooding into the hobby, how long are they going to stick around? Are they going to kind of get disinterested and move on from it a few years from now? Possibly. But I think at the moment, things are strong. And I think that things will continue to be strong for the next couple of years because there's enough people continuing to come in. And there's enough interest and excitement around it that is going to keep it strong. Hopefully it'll be strong for the long term. But I think we've got at least a few years here of this continuing to be a really cool marketplace to be part of.
Yeah, I think definitely Zion and Ja really helped that propel. I think basketball is really leading the card industry, getting back into it. A lot of people, like old school people like me, like baseball. The younger crowd likes basketball, and it's just like the convergence of old people. I'm calling myself, I'm 38, but older people getting back into it and getting their kids back into it, and they're going, yeah, I like the baseball cards, that's great, but I want to get basketball because I think it's the more popular sport now.
Yeah,
definitely they're not making. I mean, as you could tell, you could buy any 89, 90, Topps cards still today. You can go on any marketplace, and some old lady has a box of those cards.
They do. They still got them.
So there's no way they're making them to that point. I think where it's getting into where they're saying junk, I do think the autographs on cards, like base cards and things like that, I think that is being devalued a little bit because there's just so many autographs now. But I think that's more towards baseball than it is for basketball and football. With regards to the junk wax, I think that's where, if they're going to say anything, I think that is where it's going to be.
Right.
Awesome. I had a really good time talking to you.
I appreciate it. It's been a good conversation, and I hope your listeners got some value out of it. And yeah, it's been great, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you very much. All right.
Take care.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview. Hopefully you got a lot of value. Hopefully you live, you learn, you love, good times, memories. Yeah. It's just an interview about cardboard. But hopefully you liked it. You loved it. Please share. Please tell people. And don't talk bad about me. It really hurts my feelings. SVAcardcollectors.com. Also download the FlickChat app. And you guys know what to do. Buy some cards and go broke. Later!